I finally got around to watching Kung Fu Panda 4, and I gotta say, it is vastly overhated. I thought it was a pretty good movie. Today we're going to be talking about it. We're going to be breaking down the plot, talking about things that I like, talking about things that I didn't like, and one of the greatest missed opportunities in movie history. Hello everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I am your guy with many YouTube channels. Let's talk about this, everybody. So I'm going to talk about my general thoughts on the movie before we actually dive into the plot. I know I'm super late to this, okay? I don't know how long it's been out for. It's been way out of theaters. Probably, it's a last year movie, right? I was actually very excited to see this. When I talk about my favorite movie trilogies of all time, I talk about like How to Train Your Dragon, Shrek's there, but honestly, Kung Fu Panda is right up there too. I have always loved the movies. I thought the first, second, and third were near perfect. This one was a clear step down, but I've been hearing such mixed opinions on it, and I would say like I've heard way more negative than I have positive about this movie. I disagree with that. I thought that it was just like a good movie. I thought it was good, nothing spectacular, nothing great. It was a clear step down from what we've had in the first three Kung Fu Panda movies. The trilogy was great. The biggest part about it was I didn't necessarily fall into like having high expectations. Like that's a problem that I just had with the new Sonic movie. I'm not going to spoil it because it's still fairly new, but there was something that was really built up with the new Sonic movie. I got my own expectations like through the roof, and because of that, I didn't end up enjoying that part of the movie so much. The problem is I went into this movie thinking like with all of the hype in the world. I was on TikTok, I was on Kung Fu Panda, the side of the TikTok, like getting all hyped up for the movie. Everybody's talking about, okay, it's time for Tai Lung to actually become the Dragon Warrior. One of the greatest missed opportunities of all time was to not follow that storyline because they could have figured out a way to bring him back. Like, I mean, the Chameleon did actually bring him back, but how cool would that have been, man? How cool would that have been? Because if you actually look into the story, Tai Lung was done really dirty. He was done insanely dirty. He was being brought up, propped up to be this Dragon Warrior, and kind of just booted out of there. I thought that would have been fantastic to have him have his redemption arc, take over his role as the Dragon Warrior, as Po continues on to whatever it was, like Enlightenment or something like that. And then Tai Lung could be the next Dragon Warrior. That could have been one of the greatest, not only redemption stories, but one of the greatest turnarounds and storytelling pieces in movie history. That would have elevated this movie so much more, and I don't understand why they did not end up going that route. So the point in bringing that up is I didn't fall into having my expectations too high because I knew going into this movie that that wasn't going to happen. It was very clear from the trailer. It was going to be the new character. And that was the problem. I didn't really like her all that much. Like, she was okay. She was all right. Nothing against Awkwafina personally. I don't really like her characters typically too much in movies. Like, she was good in Shang-Chi, but typically I don't really like her roles. Nothing against her personally. I don't know. I don't know if anybody feels the same way. It's just her characters seem to have that same kind of attitude, kind of like how we're seeing Jack Black or The Rock right now. But again, while it was a missed opportunity, I thought it was still a very solid movie. But let's actually dive a little bit more into the plot. Okay, so the movie starts off with Po and his dad's actually starting and creating a brand new restaurant. Not a ton to break down with that. They're just hanging out, existing. Po's having a fantastic time as a Dragon Warrior. He's a star. Everybody loves him. But now Master Shifu sits Po down and goes, hey, you have to choose a successor. You have to choose someone else to be the Dragon Warrior so you can move on to, I have it written down somewhere because I knew I would forget that. Spiritual leader of the Valley of Peace. I knew I would not remember that. When I make these videos, I always have a couple notes jotted down over here that I keep referring back to. I knew that I wouldn't remember that, but I knew he was going to reach like some sort of enlightenment. Regardless, Po isn't ready for that. He doesn't want to do that. He's enjoying life as a Dragon Warrior. Master Shifu ends up leaving him absolutely no choice, so he has to find a successor. We then continue on to a couple of like pretty fun parts of the movie, to be honest with you. I enjoyed Po just kind of goofing around saying like, I'll do it later. I'll choose a Dragon Warrior another time. I don't have to. And then we actually have this like big assembly and showcase of like what all of these great fighters could do, kind of like a callback to the first movie, right? Except Po is now in Master Oogway's place. I like the fact that, like, I actually thought it was funny where he was, like, pointing to everybody, the next Dragon Warrior is going to be, oh God, what's happening? It's me. Like, I thought that was pretty funny, to be honest with you, and just things like that. But regardless, he still hasn't chosen a successor to become the Dragon Warrior, and I don't know, remember exactly how he ended up by himself, but after that giant party that they had, and he's like, I'm still the Dragon Warrior. Everybody's freaking out. It's a great time, right? he ends up running into our new character, the Fox, and she's trying to steal a bunch of things. She's a criminal. She's trying to steal like some ancient stuff from the temple. Po ends up stopping her, ships over to jail. We then bring into the story that was our unfortunate missed potential piece of Tai Lung coming back and just destroying a bunch of, I don't remember what he destroyed. He destroyed like a whole village or something. That information came to Poe's like, oh my God, Tai Lung's back. What's going on? The Fox ends up telling Poe that it is a chameleon who can shapeshift. One of the, it keeps getting worse every single movie, right? One of the greatest fighters and big evil baddies that the world has ever seen, and Poe has to go stop her. But in the next piece of the movie, I kind of see where this movie fell under some criticism, because I feel like it was moving a little too quickly, because all of a sudden, like, okay, we're going to the new city. It's full of a bunch of criminals. We have a fight in a restaurant, and none of it really, honestly, seemed all that meaningful. There's nothing to break down besides, like, what I just said. So I understand why people had a little bit of an issue with this movie, and even, like, in the middle of this movie, I was sitting down, I'm like, you know what, yeah, this is kind of moving fast, to be honest with you. So they're brought to this new city, the Fox is showing them around, and it's just a place full of criminals. Something that I did like, to be honest with you, is when she reached all of her criminal friends in that underground area. It's like the worst criminals of all time, the thieves. They take Poe's pants. But I laughed, actually, each time where Poe was trying to take Shifu's route to, instead of like not just kicking butt, but instead speaking to people, trying to get people to turn over a new leaf. He tries that, and then all the bad guys are like, oh, I see. So we stop fighting now, so then we can have more violence later. Thanks, Poe. Like, every time that they did something like that, I thought was perfect. Like, the timing was perfect. It was funny, and my wife and I was watching this with my wife, and we were just actually laughing like each time that happened. So that I loved. I loved all of those characters. I wish that we could have seen more of them, to be honest. But anyways, we learn a little bit more about the chameleon. The Fox takes Poe over to the chameleon. They sneak in, and unfortunately, Poe gets captured, right? He gets captured. He goes, hey, Jen, here, please take my staff of wisdom, or whatever it was called, right? The staff that could, Master Uguay's staff that could reach the spirit realm. And she takes it, delivers it to the chameleon. She was a double agent, but you can see that she, oh, boo-hoo, she felt bad, right? No, she's a criminal, and I don't know why Poe trusted her, but storytelling, right? Anyways, he feels all betrayed. The Fox feels bad. Poe ends up digging underground, and then it, like, I will say too, and I noticed this like at the part where Poe ended up digging underground and having to fight against those people. Every single Kung Fu Panda movie, I think they outdo themselves with the artwork, the camera work. Every single time that there was a fight scene, I loved like all the different angles of the camera. Like sometimes it was following the character, sometimes we see some beautiful, beautiful art piece that's on the outside. Like the graphics in this movie and the imagery were better. And that's saying something for Kung Fu Panda, because I've always really, really enjoyed their art style. I just thought about it when he went into like, I don't know how to describe it. Like when he went underground and then reached that kind of like shadowy place where he had to fight off all of the other, were they just reptiles? I don't remember what they were, but you get my point. Anyways, he fights them all off. He's out of the cage. He runs into supposedly the Fox, where she apologizes, but it's the chameleon, ended up shape-shifting. He gets tricked again, gets knocked off a cliff. Of course, the Fox still feels bad about it, and the lesson that the chameleon was teaching her was never trust anybody in the streets. Somebody always gets hurt. I don't care how bad she feels. She's still a little dirtbag for doing that, but as they're going away, as they're laughing, they have Poe's staff of spirits, whatever it was called. We see Poe hanging by a tree somehow, right? And then the only thing I didn't understand was the two dads come down to rescue Poe, right? They go, well, we won't let you drop, or whatever they said. And then all of a sudden, the scene cuts and they're up. Like, how the hell did they get him out of that? He fell so far and was like in a palace in the sky, hanging by a branch. How did they get him up there? There's no way that he could climb. There's no way that the goose could just fly him up. I questioned that. I was like, excuse me? Now, as we approach the climax of the movie, there's honestly not, again, a ton to break down, because we can break down the fight scene. I thought this was one of the greatest parts of the movie, but still, it was such a big missed opportunity. The chameleon goes in, takes all the people out of Spirit Realm. We get our little scene with Tai Lung. That was the big hype of the movie, right? But it was still a missed opportunity. She ends up taking all of the moves. We get to see a little bit of a battle with Tai Lung, which was really cool to see. He even used like that first move. I don't even know what it was. You know, the blue move where he does this, something like that, right? And then punches people. Like, it was cool to see him in action for a little bit. It was cool to see all of the past people coming from the Spirit Realm. I thought she was going to bring in Master Uguay. I thought that would have been really cool for him to like have a witness on what Poe has actually become. I thought that would have been really cool. Again, missed opportunity there, but they're all locked in cages. Po reunites with the fox, and somehow he ends up kind of trusting her again. I don't really understand it too much, but regardless, Po ends up facing the chameleon by himself. The fight scene, like I said, the art style, the camera work, the angles that they were doing, and the animation was beautiful. Beautiful. And I loved all of the different moves, the shape shifting from the chameleon. Like, it was all amazing. And even when the chameleon ended up turning into a chimera, that was cool. Like, I found myself invested in this fight scene as a cool fight scene in general, but I was also just admiring the art style. I loved what they did here. The animation was beautiful. So there's some great fight scenes. Everybody's watching. And what else can I say about it, right? Like, it was just a flat out enjoyable fight scene. The fox ends up saving Po, which I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest with you. I just didn't like her as the dragon warrior, man. That's probably my hiccup. So she learned how to do Po's move, but she called it skabam or whatever was incorrect about what Po was saying. She ended up besting the chameleon. I thought that she was too easy to beat. She learned Po's cool move with the staff, right? And then all of a sudden the chameleon was defeated. That I thought was a little bit anticlimactic. I would have liked to see a bigger fight scene. I would have liked to see a longer fight scene, and it would have been so much better if Tai Lung was by Po's side. How cool would that have been? Those two working together? But we did get that acknowledgement. Everybody, Po saved the day. Everybody was heading back into the spirit realm. We see Tai Lung actually acknowledge Po, saying, perhaps I was wrong about you. You actually are the dragon warrior. Tai Lung has accepted it. Po has his respect. It was a really cool moment. Like, from what we did see from Tai Lung, I really, really enjoyed. But again, just a big missed opportunity. I don't like the fox. She was a criminal. I don't care about the redemption story. Like, somebody like her, I don't know, man. They oftentimes don't get redemption. And I know it was picking somebody who is not necessarily worthy of being the dragon warrior, kind of like Master Oogway choosing Po. And I know that they were kind of trying to go that direction with it. And I know that the doors opened for a lot of training. Like, at the end of the movie, that's how it was been. Like, he brought the fox back to Shifu and was like, this is the next dragon warrior. And he goes, her? Like, it was funny. But again, just a missed opportunity, man. Just a missed opportunity. I like that she didn't overtake the show completely. I still like that it was about Po. And to be honest with you, until the end of the movie, the Furious Five slipped my mind. Don't know why. I don't know where they were. I don't know if they mentioned it and I just missed it. But it was cool to see them back too, because she's learning how to fight just like Po ended up doing. And we're brought to a whole new era of Kung Fu Panda. And this sets up for some more movies down the line. I'm excited for it. It was still a very, very good movie. It was just good. Like, I enjoyed it. I wish that we could have seen more. Perhaps we'll get into a rewrite sometime, because this had some serious potential. It didn't live up to it, but I still thoroughly enjoyed it, just as I have all of the other Kung Fu Panda movies, guys. Let me know what you think about this movie down below. Thank you very, very much for being here and watching. Why don't you check out this video on screen right now? YouTube thinks that you'll like this video the best. I'd love to have you over there. I'd love to have you comment on this video, whatever you want to do. Thanks for being here, everybody. Your time is very valuable. Take care.